she was getting some work done on her truck earlier that morning, and she had texted a few people that she was going up to Tyler's to go get her belongings from the property. I think at this point, you know, our family just wants closure, and I just want to know where my sister is.
A young single mother in an on again, off again relationship who's going to grab her things disappears. It doesn't sound good from the outset, but what's even worse about it is we are a year after the fact, law enforcement seemingly telling the family that they believe she is deceased and the boyfriend is walking around freely. What's going on with this case? We're going to dive into all the details because right now it's time to turn on the searchlight for Bailey Blunt. Welcome back to Brain Scratch Searchlight. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for caring about these cases like I do. And we're going to start this episode just by trying to understand a little bit more about the area where it's happening, because there is a very unique statistic about this area. Here at worldpopulationreview.com, according to the National Missing and Unidentified Persons, or NamUs database, more than 600,000 people go missing annually. That means that there are roughly 6.5 missing persons for every 100,000 people. So that's the national average. Of course, by state, it fluctuates a little bit. California's rate of missing persons is roughly average. It's at 7.61 for every 100,000 people. The area where Bailey went missing is considerably different, and here is a picture of it. It's known as the Emerald Triangle. We can see Humboldt County on the top left side there, and that is where Bailey was. It's called the Emerald Triangle because it's the largest cannabis producing region in the United States. And interestingly, even knowing that aspect of it, there's a lot of money to be made there. There's always jobs and work there, and it can sometimes attract people that maybe want to be off the grid, be away from large metropolitan areas. It's very rural there. Kind of place where if you want to go work on a farm and maybe not have to file taxes on that income, you could probably find some arrangements like that in certain places out there. So it attracts a certain type of person maybe that wants to be off the radar, as well as others that are out there for thriving in that business. I mean, marijuana is becoming legal more and more across the entire United States. What I was surprised by in looking through comments about today's case is so many people talking about the other drug problems that are happening in this area. We're talking severe opiate addiction in this area. We're talking a really, really bad problem with methamphetamines in this area as well. And it's such a bad problem, I believe Bailey herself was tied into and struggling with that addiction for a number of years. Now, I did mention she's a mother. I can't find any information on it. The gist that I'm getting, and that's as far as I can say about it, is I don't believe her daughter was living with her. There is a mention that Bailey's mother has made in an interview where she said that there was letters to her daughter that were written, and that's one of the things that she was going to get from her ex-boyfriend's place. So let's go ahead and continue just learning a little bit more. What is going on with Humboldt County, and how bad is this problem exactly? Why are there so many missing people in Humboldt County? An average of, remember, national average was 6, California average 7.6, an average of 717 people per 100,000 go missing in Humboldt County every year, giving it the highest per capita missing persons rate in the state. That might be the highest rate in the country for any area. It's kind of hard to find statistics that get that granular. Most of the stats I'm finding are by state, and those numbers are nowhere near this. So this is kind of an epidemic in this area. People disappear from this area to the tune of over 100 times. It's 100 times more likely that if you're going to become a missing person, it's gonna be 100 times more likely in this area. That is mind-boggling. Now, admittedly, part of the dynamic I was talking about there, this might be the type of place where people go to disappear. And this article touches on an example of that. The eye-popping figures have earned Humboldt County the nickname the Black Hole. They have even spawned unsubstantiated rumors about a possible serial killer wandering this part of the Emerald Triangle. For the missing adults, says Lieutenant Dennis Young, cannabis is often involved. Many people from throughout the state, nation, and world come to Humboldt County to work in the cannabis industry. They oftentimes will not communicate with friends and family regarding their location, and or they go off the grid for extended periods of time. Many of these individuals will return home, and no one notifies law enforcement that they're no longer missing. Consequently, they remain in the database. Some missing persons are victims of homicides with no apparent leads and lack of witness cooperation. Those later conditions may be affecting the case that we're talking about here today. That's what happened in one missing persons case out of Humboldt County, currently making national headlines. You guys might have heard about this one. Rebecca Martinez, 22 years old, was reported missing by her mother after telling her that she was going to Humboldt to work on a marijuana farm. Then she goes missing, and eventually she's seen again on television's The Bachelor. Martinez's whereabouts were discovered when a viewer saw her picture on a flyer of missing persons posted by the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department and recognized her as one of the contestants on the show. That is, of course, a happy ending in one of these stories, but we're talking over 700 of those stories a year, and unfortunately, I don't think the case we're looking at today is going to fall into one of those happy endings. Let's start at NamUs and learn a little bit more about this case. Bailey Faye Araline Blunt, a white Caucasian female. Date of last contact, we're coming up on a year, September 22nd of 2023. Missing from Blue Lake, California at the age of 28. She would be 29 years old today. Standing at 5 feet 3 inches tall, she weighs, here they're saying around 130 pounds. I'm seeing different estimates, somewhere around 150. I'm seeing on some of the posters as well. For circumstances of disappearance, we don't have a whole lot. Last seen on the morning of September 22nd, 2023. Based on information that her mother shared in that interview, it seems like there's at least some type of text or message contact that happens that day, I believe later that day, somewhere in the 4 p.m. range as well. But I guess this is probably talking about a visual confirmation for last time she was seen. They're noting here brown hair, brown eyes, nothing else really on that description front. But for tattoo description, we do have a few. Fishhook on lower left thumb, outer palm of hand, and a sword on the back of her neck extending vertically between her shoulder blades. We've got some pictures you can see there. They're not great. Unfortunately, you can't really zoom in on them because they're already really, really small images. But here you can see the fishhook on her hand and the sword that kind of stretches down between her shoulder blades on the back of her neck. Clothing and accessories, no description. This is one of those cases where seemingly the last person to see her is her ex-boyfriend or her on-again, off-again boyfriend, and it appears that he's not cooperating with law enforcement in enough of a way where we can at least get a clothing description. No additional case information, and that is about it. Of course, they have contact details, which we will have on the screen if you happen to have any tips, and then also in the description box down below. As far as I understand, there is a $10,000 reward currently available for information that helps find Bailey on this case. We get a little more detail over at the Texas EquiSearch website, so we're going to stop there real quick, including a different picture. And this picture is noting one of the details. We can see here her hair color is actually more of a dirty blonde, and this is even noting with red-pink lowlights. If you look right at the bottom here, you can see that she's got red and pink right in the bottom of her hair color. And I believe that would be at the time that she actually went missing. Here, they're noting her weight, her height. They're saying she's an inch taller, 5 feet 4 inches tall, and weight at this one, 160 pounds. But they have a better description of what's going on here. 28-year-old Bailey Faye Arline Blunt. I wonder if that is a correction needed there, because we've got Araline, I believe, is her name here. It seems like we might have a typo on one of these. I'm not sure which. And her black dog, Hank, were last seen on September 22nd, 2023, near Berg Road off of State Route 299 in Humboldt County, California. Bailey was driving a 97 green Dodge Ram Crew cab pickup with a white hood. Bailey sent 2 distressing messages to a friend at 4:38 p.m. There's the mention of the message. On the day of her disappearance, Bailey's pickup truck has been spotted near Medford, Oregon. Interesting. There's a little bit of a chain before that sighting, so we won't dive into the map right away on that. But just learning about this area in particular, seems like she's living in this area called Blue Lake. That's a city in Humboldt County located on the Mad River in a deep valley. It's 16 miles northeast of Eureka at an elevation of 131 feet. Population only 1,200 as of the 2020 census, and that's down from about 1,250 of the 2010 census. The Berg Road that they're noting off of the 299, it's interesting. It doesn't really look like it's still in Blue Lake, but all the references that I'm seeing to this home area where she was living are Blue Lake. So there must just be some interesting lines in terms of the city limits out here. It's been described by her family as a mountain that she was living on with her ex-boyfriend off of Berg Road. And we can see it certainly looks like that. It's just a big mountain area with tons and tons of what looks like pretty thick terrain around it. It's based on the description that her family's saying, it's almost like a trailer park type situation. Her boyfriend had a trailer up there. They were going through a separation a month or even longer than a month before her disappearance. There was a really traumatic thing that happened around that. We'll get into that when we hit the news sources. But it seemed like she was trying things out again, trying to maybe get back together with him. At some point, she gets a trailer of her own, and it's also at this same location. So it's strange because some of the descriptions I'm seeing are making it sound like it was his trailer, and then other ones are like, no, it's more like it was her trailer that she was going to. I don't know if he had access to it or if he was living in it or if it was literally next door to his trailer. There's something about the proximity where they have to be close to each other for this story to kind of make sense in my mind. But one way or another, she's going back to this mountaintop where she has personal items that she's going to collect. And she disappears from that point. We get a little more detail here at one of the posters, this one done by missingpeopleinamerika.org. On September 22nd, Bailey drove her truck to her ex-boyfriend Tyler Burrows' property on Berg Road off State Route 299 in Humboldt County to retrieve her belongings. The last contact with Bailey was at 4:38 p.m. when she texted a friend asking for help because Tyler was drunk and pulled a gun on her. And that would not be the only instance of a gun being involved in one of their disputes. Just keep that in mind as we kind of roll forward with all this. Interestingly enough, we have Bailey go missing, and then I believe a day or two later, Tyler's family reports him missing as well. Here at krcrtv.com, 2 Humboldt residents remain missing. Relatives of woman speak out. She told her current boyfriend, Jordan, that if she wasn't back by dark, that he needed to come look for her because something bad had happened. That is a quote from her sister, Stephanie Baroni. But Blunt's boyfriend wasn't able to find Blunt when he got to the residence to look for her. Blunt was reported missing a few days later on September 25th. More than that, apparently there was an altercation between her current boyfriend and her ex-boyfriend, and I believe her current boyfriend got punched, basically. The next day, September 26th, Burrow was reported missing as well. Blunt's green Dodge Ram was spotted near Sawyer, where the family said sources reported seeing it for about 48 hours before it disappeared from that location. Based on the interviews I'm hearing, that seems to be a friend of his that lives at that property, a friend of Tyler's. So the vehicle was there for a period of time. 2 days later, the vehicle was detected in Reading by a license plate reader, and that was on September 24th. Her sister continues, we can only speculate from there. The investigator says that it doesn't look good, but that they have some more leads to track down. So what does Tyler's mother say? Burrow's mother, Jackie, said she believes the pair left together voluntarily. According to her, the two were still trying to make things work. Bailey and Tyler wanted to get away from here and start over and get their lives back on track, Jackie Burrow said. Not very easy for me to believe. Maybe it's just because of how many of these stories I'm exposed to where we don't have people typically running off to restart their lives in big happy ending moments like that. But that's what his mother is saying is happening here. If we do track the movements of the vehicle, we know at some point it's at Berg Road. We know at some point it stays with a friend or on a friend's property at Sawyer. And then from there, it's spotted by a plate scanner in Reading. Certainly looks like someone is moving. And what's interesting about the plate scan in Reading, it's close to Interstate 5. And Interstate 5, if you're familiar with the West Coast at all, that is a major thoroughfare that could take you, I think, basically all the way from Mexico to Canada. It is a straight shot, basically, that runs almost perfectly north and south. Of course, it varies a little bit along the way, but overall, complete north and south. So is someone on the run there? Maybe to the point of Tyler's mother, are they looking to run off and start somewhere new? Let's get a little more detail from a GoFundMe. This one is currently closed. There's another one that's open, and there's a link to that down below if you want to help this family with their search efforts, and we'll talk more about that. But just for some of the details at this one, this is more information from her sister, Stephanie. We have learned that this was a very dangerous situation she was in, and it didn't end good for our B-Bug. If you knew her, you know that she was always laughing, always loud, and the life of every party. If you were her friend or family, she was ride or die for you till the end. She has such a big heart and spiritual soul. I didn't keep this highlighted, but it's very obvious that the family thinks that they're dealing with the worst of situations here. She is no longer alive. And they have good reason to think that because, according to them, law enforcement's telling them that. As a matter of fact, I've even seen an example of a letter written by the head investigator that is saying that as well. They believe that she's no longer alive. My mom had been down there staying in the area of the last known sighting of her ex, who is a suspect, tracking down clues, knocking on doors, and working with the detectives. The phrasing I've seen, they have not been saying a suspect, but they are certainly saying that he's a person of interest, especially with both of them missing. But at the time of that last article, they're both missing, even to the point where there's NamUs profiles for both of them at that time. Let's continue with more details, basically coming from her sister, but this over at kobi5.com. The reason Baroni's so concerned is she says Bailey and Tyler's relationship has been a tumultuous one. They had a very volatile relationship. Bailey wasn't innocent in it at all, you know. They both were nasty to each other. The Humboldt County Sheriff's Office says Tyler is not currently suspected of a crime related to Bailey's disappearance. While there is an active warrant out for his arrest in Trinity County, they say it's not related to the missing person investigation. So basically, and it's weird because that warrant didn't become active until after he became a missing person, I believe. There's really no details about that warrant. Outside of it does seem to be related to some other type of violent act. That's about all the detail that I could get from it. Back to the quote from her sister. At this point, our family just wants closure. I just want to know where my sister is. So yeah, we now have a warrant on him as he's missing as well. Few sightings of the vehicle as it seems to be moving throughout the state. And I just wanted to give a thank you to Red-Headed Black Belts. Whenever we cover stories in this area, they always turn out to be a really good news source, very local, very interested in these stories. And I really appreciate that type of coverage. So thank you to Kim Kemp over at Red-Headed Black Belt. Baroni shared the unsettling details of Bailey's last known moments. After Bailey did not return at dark, Jordan went looking for her, Baroni said. He found the gate to the Berg Road locked before meeting Tyler and another man on the road. The two men reportedly engaged in a physical altercation before Jordan left the scene. Other descriptions are saying Jordan got punched there. Baroni said that Tyler was seen with Bailey's truck and dog at a nearby trailer park the day after Bailey went to retrieve her belongings. Bailey's family, upon discovering her disappearance, immediately traveled to Humboldt County to search for her. Baroni described finding Bailey's trailer in disarray, with belongings left behind mid-task, indicating an abrupt departure. Quote, "When we got to Bailey's trailer, it just literally looked like she had just poofed. Her phone was there. Her purse was there. There was an open rock star, like she was just sitting at her table packing. You could tell she was packing her stuff. There were duffel bags full of clothes and everything. Everything was just left behind, and she was nowhere to be found. Now, describing that scene, first of all, it's being very clear that this is at her trailer. It's all her stuff in the act of actually packing with an unfinished drink that's there as well. Seems like maybe there was a knock at the door. Maybe someone showed up and stopped this act. And I'm not saying 100% that it's the boyfriend, but it's hard not to think that, especially with some of the developments we're going to run into here. But the family believes that Bailey was attempting to make a clean break from a tumultuous relationship with Tyler, citing previous incidents of violence, including an alleged shooting attempt. As the days pass, hope diminishes and the family fears the worst. So this is the vehicle, the original color. Basically, it's a green truck, but it looks like the hood has been replaced or it had been possibly primered to be repainted. So the hood is kind of grayish, maybe white. It's been described as white. When the truck's found, it would look quite a bit different. So in terms of that warrant, Willow Creek man wanted for assault. On October 24th, the Trinity County Sheriff's Office issued an arrest warrant for Burrow for assault with a deadly weapon. However, the TCSO said the warrant was not in connection to Blunt's disappearance. And that's just something I'm not sure of, because even though it's not in connection to her disappearance, is she still a person related to the actual incident? Is this from a previous violent incident with her? Is this a violent incident with someone else? I can't find any specific details on that. But we have seen in cases like this before where it seems like law enforcement will use a warrant on a charge like that to basically try to get the person, try to get them in an interview situation, and then ask them about the other things that they're more interested in. In this case, where is Bailey? Not to say that that initial warrant is bunk, but those charges don't always stick around after they do track the person down. Of course, assault with a deadly weapon, I would like to hope that that charge would see all the way through into some type of court process. Not sure that we're going to see that here, though. Continuing with another article over at KOBI5.com, Blunt's green Dodge Ram was detected by a license plate reader in the Reading area on September 24th. We already saw that on the map. That's right when it gets to Interstate 5. Humboldt County Sheriff's Office says it was also observed that day on a traffic camera at Central Point. The truck was occupied at the time, but police say it wasn't clear who or how many people were in the vehicle. Now, I went looking for Central Point, California, and could not find it because they're not talking about California. They're talking about Central Point, Oregon. Now, a couple of big factors in this. First of all, the truck movement seems fairly obvious now. Someone was cutting to that main interstate and then all of a sudden starts heading north. That's not to say that they're trying to flee the country or anything like that, but look at 5, continue 5, you can keep going, and there's Canada right there. But it's now in Oregon. Another important point about this, we've all heard, especially people that watch this channel, once the crime crosses state lines, FBI can become involved. I'm not seeing any indicators of that in this case. And I'm not exactly sure why, because there's a very simple component to understand about what happens here when he is found. And maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Let's get to those details. Missing Humboldt man arrested in Oregon. Ex-girlfriend who disappeared a few days earlier, still missing. So they find him. They don't find her, but he has some property of hers. Nearly 2 months after disappearing from Humboldt County, Tyler Burrow was located and arrested in Jackson County, Oregon. Based on the circumstances of Blunt's disappearance, her family believes that Burrow knows what happened to her. But detectives have stated that based on the current evidence they have, they're still treating the case as just that of a missing person. Deputies are hopeful Burrow will be able to give them some of the answers they need to move forward with her case. Hopeful for that too, but we're going to see it doesn't exactly play out that way. How did they track him down? So we know that, the vehicle was seen, but this guy's basically hiding off in the woods somewhere. How do they find that exact location? Once again, a big thank you to the kimkemp.com red-headed black belt page, we get a very good description of what happened here, and even a screenshot of his arrest record. Tyler was taken into custody after a tip from local hunters in the Trail, Oregon area. Stephanie Baroni, Bailey's sister, told Redheaded Black Belt that she had received a tip from a local hunter that had come across an established encampment in the woods near Trail, Oregon, north of Central Point, where Bailey's Dodge pickup was spotted. So this tip actually came in to her sister. Let's just take a moment and appreciate the power of social media here, and someone that saw something that could maybe turn into being a potential lead and nails it. This hunter nailed it. Using a pin drop on a map, the hunter shared the location of the encampment with Baroni, who contacted the Jackson County investigators searching for Bailey. They had Burrow in custody within hours of Baroni sharing the location with them. That is amazing. That is truly amazing. According to Baroni, when law enforcement found Burrow, he was in possession of Bailey's dog, Hank, and her Dodge pickup, though it had been spray painted black. Bailey was not located, dashing any hope the family had that Burrow may have been holding her against her will. So this is the vehicle when it's found. We can see all of it has been painted. Well, most of it. The hood's certainly been painted. Looks like the side panels have been painted. For some reason, this front left quarter panel that took some damage was left green. That damage doesn't look exactly new. It's pretty rusted, so I don't think that was recent. But what is going on here? He runs off with her dog and her truck across state lines. I mean, at a minimum, can't we be looking at some form of theft charge here? Now, I think there's a little wrinkle in that based on an interview that I heard with her sister and some other things that I read. I'm not sure that the truck's title was transferred into her name yet. It looks like investigators did find that there was notes of some type of exchange happening and that ownership was being transferred to her. I don't think it was 100% completed yet. So I think that is kind of holding off the charges. The dog situation, I don't know how far you could run with a charge like that. But come on. She goes missing. He's found with her vehicle, which has been disguised, and her dog, and we know they went across state lines. Can we not get the FBI's help with this? There's comments from the family that they're concerned that law enforcement isn't treating this, giving it their all, because we're talking about someone that was struggling with drug abuse. It's hard to not have some feeling about that when we've got conditions like this. And like, let's call in all the help that we can. So they find him, find her dog, find her vehicle, and then, according to a news release from Jackson County Sheriff's Office, they held him at the Jackson County Jail, awaiting extradition back to California. Humboldt County Sheriff's Office detectives are in Jackson County doing follow-up investigations. So basically, as soon as they knew they had him, guys from the HCSO headed up there to do their questioning of him. Humboldt County detectives searched the camp and a vehicle and later interviewed Burrow at the Jackson County Jail, according to Brian Quinnell, a sheriff's office spokesman. He did speak with our detectives, but he did not provide us with any additional information that would allow us to locate Ms. Blunt. At the time of his questioning, Burrow was not considered a suspect or person of interest in the disappearance of Blunt, according to Quinnell. And that's another thing I'm confused about it too, because I'm seeing it reported both ways. There's some documentation from law enforcement that has been released. It's confusing to me. In certain comments, it's like, yes, he's a suspect. No, he's a person of interest. No, he was neither. We just wanted to talk to him. I just don't know how you take that position when, he's in ownership. Like, okay, maybe we can make an assumption that the dog was shared by the both of them. Maybe, she got the dog when she was with him. The dog lived with both of them for a period of time. Maybe there would almost be like a custody dispute in terms of the dog. There seems to be some dispute also going on about the truck, at least in the very limited communication that I've seen, mainly from her to him. but basically also talking about the truck. So it seems like these property items are in dispute. But at a minimum, we know these two property items in particular are in dispute with this couple, and now one of the couple is missing and the other has wound up with those items. I've said it on this channel before. Murder is problem solving. Thank you to the experts that have shared that with me. Murder is problem solving for the person that does the murder. Someone came out on top in this situation. Someone gets to keep these property items that were being discussed, that were being disputed. And what was she doing that day? She was going there to get her stuff back and to get off the mountain. So was there going to be a dispute in particular? I would think about Hank in particular, about something as personal as a vehicle. I think there'd be a very, very good chance of that. Unfortunately, I don't have the details to know exactly. Well, I do remember her sister said that she got her truck worked on earlier that day. So I think from that we can infer that she actually took her truck, she drove it herself to the site to go get her stuff. When you consider that, and then he winds up with the truck, at a minimum, let's call this guy a person of interest. I mean, at a minimum, it's just weird. But keep in mind, this isn't the investigator. This is a spokesperson that we're hearing from here. And I have seen numerous instances where information will vary, especially when you have a spokesperson that's commenting, or even a police chief that's commenting on it, as opposed to the investigators that are actually working the case themselves. I wish we knew where she was, he said. I wish she was with him. I wish we had found her already, but we're going to continue this investigation like any other and keep following out the leads as we get them. Quinnell is not sure if Burrow and Blunt traveled to Jackson County together. That's the big question. But said he hopes that people here keep a lookout for her. If they do see her, please notify your local law enforcement so they can come into contact with her, he said. So he's not helpful in that initial interview. I don't know what's going on with the charges for that warrant that they got to go ahead and arrest him, but it's like this guy can't stay out of trouble because he gets arrested again. There's more occurrences that happen around him. Over at another article at krcrtv.com, Burrow fled to Oregon where he was tracked down. He was released on his own recognizance, but did not appear for court dates. Well, guess what happens off that? New warrants. It's been mishandled by the police department from the beginning, Baroni said. They had Tyler in custody twice, and they failed to interview him. And they say they didn't go up to Bailey's household where she was living and where she was reported missing. Now, I've seen other clarifications on these statements. So first of all, they did interview him. He just didn't say anything. And based on something else I saw, they actually interviewed him a second time during one of these subsequent arrests. And at this point, he's lawyered up. So he's definitely not sharing anything. So they've got him in the seat. They just can't get the guy to talk. In terms of them not going to Bailey's household where she was living, I assume that they have to be talking about maybe his trailer at that point. Because I would think it's obvious that they would have gone to hers. I mean, her family was accessing hers, so there would be nothing to stop law enforcement from coming in and looking there. Maybe she means a forensic processing or a forensic investigation there. I did see a clarifying statement where it's this same quote, but it goes on longer. And she basically says that they didn't go there until a number of days later. And this is off the top of my head, but I think she said 28 days later, something along those lines. So it could be that they're talking about a forensic search effort. So on top of that, Burrow arrested again, this time in Jackson County, while on a motorcycle without lights or a license plate. However, Trinity County released him on his own recognizance. I feel hopeful that we will find her because me and my family haven't stopped from the get-go, her sister said. My mom's still up there. She's still knocking on doors. She's tracking down all of Tyler's friends. So the family doing everything they can just to get some piece of information to help them with this. And here we are a year later. Thankfully, we do have Humboldt County issuing a press release, and this does drum up some new attention, a new wave of media on this. It's part of the reason why we're talking about it here today, because I saw this new push of attention on this case. 1 year later, Since law enforcement's first response to investigate the disappearance of Bailey Blunt, multiple searches of the Berg Road property were conducted, including the use of highly specialized canine teams and ground searchers, without success. Blunt has not utilized any credit cards or contacted any of her loved ones since the disappearance a year ago. Interviews have been conducted by investigators with more than 30 individuals, including Tyler Burrow. Search warrants have been issued and served on vehicles, properties, cellular phones, and electronic records as part of the ongoing investigation. Tips received throughout the investigation have led to thorough searches of locations in Humboldt and Trinity counties and Oregon. At this point, the sheriff's office has followed up on all possible leads and is requesting the public's help in this investigation. Investigators believe there are people in this community that know what happened to Bailey Blunt. So that is the main message that they want to get out. They are looking for help from the public. And with that, I'm saying we need help from you guys. If you have friends that are in this area, that are in the Emerald Triangle, please share this video with them. We got to get people talking about this. We got to get that level of volume on that chatter up a little bit and hopefully grab the heart of the right person that has that information and have them pick up that phone. Hey, $10,000 as a reward right now. If you're the person with information, that could be yours. Please do the right thing and help this family. It's been a year. It's been a year. So at this 1 year mark, another important voice steps forward. All up to this point, it's really been her sister, Stephanie, that's been doing the speaking. But now Bailey's mother comes to the forefront. She does an extended interview with the U.S. Sun. You can see her being emotional here. Full interview runs about 12 minutes long. There's a lot of information in there. I think I've shared most of the highlights with you guys already as we've been going through this, but we've got a couple of other pieces here. Bailey Blunt's eerie last message to her mother on Facebook at 4:30 a.m. on September 22nd was a final call for help and a clear sign the 28-year-old was in trouble. Now that's interesting because this changes up the time frame considerably. Those other posters, I think, were pretty clear that they were talking about PM. It also popped up in one of the articles, but here we're hearing it might be 4:30 a.m. I don't know. Little discrepancy there. But what was it about? We get a little more detail. So her mother talked about an occurrence that happened a month before her disappearance, in which Bailey called her and messaged her and said, I've been shot. What happened was there was a fight that was going on with them. A firearm was involved, and Bailey, I think, based on the description from her mother, wound up wrestling with the firearm in some way. It goes off, and then she basically got a powder burn. She got burnt by the powder. And I don't know if it was because her hand was too close in terms of where it was on the barrel, but they described it, I believe, as a powder burn on her legs. So I think she was basically guiding the barrel away from her body. It goes off, and then the powder burns a part of her body. So keep in mind, that's going on a month before this. And her mother even talks about almost like a rescue effort that she staged at that time, that she drove out there. Her mother lives, I think, 4 or 5 hours away, but she went out there. They were going to collect Bailey, get her stuff, and just get her out of there, bring her back home. But in something that we see with these situations time and time again, Bailey decided to give it another chance, to just kind of go back, give it another shot. And I think that's where maybe the situation changed a little bit, and all of a sudden there's this other trailer that's Bailey's trailer. Maybe that was their form of trying to create some new boundaries around all this. But you're going to see from this message here, it seems like the violence that was going on between these two just came right back to where it was before. This is a message from Bailey. It looks like she's writing this to Tyler. I can't believe you did this. You shot at me, Tyler. If you honestly think you're the victim here, you need to get some help. You're a narcissist. You gave me PTSD. My mom showed up, made me 11 everything, and took me 300 miles away. Do you get it now? I don't know what 11 is, but I assume that it used to be a different word and auto-corrected that. I want my dog, Tyler. I lost everything I loved, and for what? I didn't deserve this. You ruined me. I worked hard on me, and now I'm worse off than before. You're evil, and I still love you. So we can see a lot of conflict going on around this. And like I mentioned, obviously a dispute that's going on with the dog. He's drunk and waving his gun around, Blunt wrote about her on again, off again boyfriend Tyler Burrow in messages seen by the U.S. Sun. Tiffany has urged anyone with information to contact the family via their special Facebook page. And hey, contact directly to the family is what helped find Tyler. So if that's the mechanism that you'd rather use, as opposed to, I get it. There's some people that are in this area that probably don't want to call the sheriff's department. They've got a Facebook page set up. You can go directly there. We have that linked in the description box down below as well. And there's an administrator on that page who's actually kind of a new friend of mine, Candace Cooley, mother of Dylan Rounds, helping this family as well. It really lit my heart up to see her name when I went to that page and joined it myself. There's good people there. There's people that if you need to remain anonymous for some reason, they can help you with that mechanism. Just please, if you have this information, get it over to them. Tiffany is adamant that Burrow, who has never been charged with anything connected to Bailey's situation, is behind her disappearance. She's expressed her anger at the disgraceful lack of assistance from the Humboldt Sheriff's Department. She said that local cops took too long to start investigating, and because single mom Bailey was in the midst of a struggle with meth addiction, they soon decided that she had been killed. Sheriff William Hansel spoke at length to the U.S. Sun about the investigation and stressed that everything is being done to find the 28-year-old single mother. Quote, "The reality is we weren't there when Bailey went missing, and the situation appears grave. She hasn't used her money, and her cell phone is inactive. She's missing, presumed deceased. Bailey's family feels that authorities decided that she's not worth bothering with because of her drug problems, but the sheriff countered those claims, insisting that's not true. We don't discriminate." And honestly, with the efforts that they've talked about in that press release that came out this year, that seems like the right steps. It seems like a reasonable amount of work that has been done for an investigation like this. The only thing I'm curious about, and maybe this has happened in the background and they're just not talking about it publicly, but I don't know why you wouldn't, is we asked the FBI for assistance. That just, to me, is a little bit of a missing piece in this story. Just even putting that out in the press, think of what that could stir up in terms of the social circles there. But more importantly, what benefits we could have in terms of maybe additional investigators, additional resources, if they have things that they need to test from any of the searches that they've done. Why isn't that? We've seen enough cases to know that that could be a component in this case. I'm not sure why it hasn't been called in yet. Maybe there's been an attempt to, maybe there's just not enough. Maybe it's not enough that he was found and arrested across state lines with two significant items that were at some point considered to be her property. I would think, I know it's a close line that we're treading on that, but I would think that that would be enough. Just with the assumption here, they're being clear. The sheriff's department's being clear in this comment. She's presumed deceased. We know who has an item of hers that was with her on the day she disappeared, her truck. At a minimum, we know that she had her truck. Isn't there enough? Isn't there enough of these pieces to put that into play? The Trinity River Canyon area where they fear Bailey was last seen is, according to Stephanie, 60 miles of absolutely nothing and highly rural, making it worryingly easy for a body to be disposed of. And I think they're just calling back to, look at that mountain, look at that area. There's a reason why there's so many marijuana farms up there. Everything grows like crazy. You've got a great mixture of water resources, sunlight. It's a great area for things to grow. Unfortunately, that is a very scary factor when you're talking about trying to find a body. You've got wild brush going on out there. Giant trees, just all these different considerations, things that, a drone search out there, not going to be super helpful. This is going to be like a boots on ground. And if it did happen around that property, we're talking a mountain search. in the thick of it. The family says no sniffer dogs have ever been unleashed in the area, and although they raised around $4,000 to help with the search, more is needed. It's a very rural area and remote area with hundreds of miles of Forest Service roads, the sheriff said. If Bailey wandered off or something happened to her out there, finding her would be extremely challenging, he said. So in that comment, it sounds like he's bringing up the other possibility, some type of death by misadventure, or maybe even a self-harm situation as being possible. I guess that's a possibility. We can't rule it out. We don't know exactly where she is. It's strange in light of the social information, and we saw those text messages. That's a text message chain that you can see was a screenshot of her messages being sent to him. So we know about some of the tough conditions that happened only a month before, and we're talking about an incident with a firearm. And then he's got this other charge. Now that's where I'm a little confused, because the warrant that they applied to go and arrest him, could it be from that occurrence the month before? And that's why I was asking earlier, I wonder if this is already related to Bailey, this other charge that they kind of pulled up. I'm not sure, because in this interview over at The Sun, her family talks about another occurrence where he attacked someone else. And they describe it that man, who is like a landlord for this trailer park, was practically scalped, that he was wounded so badly that his hairline was basically peeling off of his head. So it seems like there's a lot of violence around this guy, and that's brought a lot of cause for concern. I don't know. Tyler was arrested on unrelated charges in Trinity County and was interviewed. They're saying unrelated, so I would think it's not Bailey, but I can't be sure. He has since absconded and is now believed to be in Oregon. Great. So now he's taken off. We're in contact with the current property owner of where he used to live, and we're continuing our investigation. So in a way, that actually might be helpful, because if they're in contact with the current property owner, they might be giving them access that they couldn't have gotten before if he was still there, even though he was only renting. That could actually turn out to be helpful to the investigation if there's something there to be found. He also really just swung a lot of support for the investigator that's working on this case. He says the investigator that's on this case is solid and emotionally invested as well. And it hurts that we don't have resolution on this. And it hurts every time she talks to the family that she can't give good news, and she hears the pain and the anguish on the family's voice. Believe me, we want to bring justice for Bailey. And I just want to show this to you guys, because I know I mentioned that there was some communication. This is a letter from the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office. This one from December of 23. So only a couple months after she went missing. And pretty straightforward here. As of today's date, no one has seen or spoken with Bailey since September 22nd. Based upon the facts of the investigation, which I'm unable to elaborate on at this time, I do believe that foul play was involved in Bailey's disappearance, and she is likely deceased. So they have put that message out very early on, and foul play, that's not death by misadventure. That's not going to be a self-harm situation. They're calling out that they seem to have enough information. They think someone likely ended her life. So combine that with these other factors about how the vehicle is found, about the dog being found. Find Bailey Blunt, the official page by Missing in America Network. That's part of, Candace Cooley is part of the Missing in America Network. So this is where you can come if you don't want to talk to law enforcement directly, message this page, put that information in play. But hopefully you do want to talk to law enforcement. You can use the number that's been on the screen this whole time, or additional contact methods that we have in the description box down below. Also, like I mentioned, there is currently a $10,000 reward. Family also looking to raise more money to continue their search efforts. They are at $455 out of an $1,100 goal. On behalf of myself and my amazing supporters, thank you guys so much. I'm going to be making a donation to this just as soon as I'm done filming today. If you would like to add to that, I'll have a link in the description box down below where you can go and make an additional donation of your own. Big thank you to everyone that helps me do that. I can't do it without your help. It's our wonderful supporters. If you'd like to become one, please go to lordandarts.com. There you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, buy merchandise, or even just buy us a coffee, like Candy Bishop recently did. We can't do this without your help. You guys have probably noticed there were no commercials in the middle of this video. We run one at the beginning and one at the end. We want you to be able to stay focused on the case. We're hoping that this video gets in front of the right person and helps move them to do the right thing with that information. You can still be part of that even if you can't be a supporter over at lordandarts.com. Just click that like button, even click the dislike button, drop a comment. All of that interaction basically tells YouTube this video is creating activity. We need to show it to more people. And that's the goal here. We're trying to get this video seen by one person specifically, hopefully the person that has the information. Big thank you to Candace Cooley for helping this family. I really, really know and appreciate that she's going to be doing good things for them. And having people like that on your side is so important. They're only 1 year in. Let's try to help them and make sure that they don't have to be doing all of this press again when September 22nd of 2025 comes around. Thank you guys so much for your help and time with this. Take care, and please join us again next week for a brand new episode of Brain Scratch right here on the Lord and Arts channel.